Hello, fellow AFL enjoyers. We're back in a little cheeky Brayside session.
The Georgia Matter special.
Georgia Matter special. Look, I think this might be a bit of a confronting start to the episode because you're wearing glasses and I've got a mustache.
Yeah.
So I think, sorry guys if this is...
And Matter needs the mustache and I need the glasses. So.
Yeah, no, 100%. Without the mustache, I can't see. But something that we can all see is that Liverpool are champions, so I'm celebrating. Liverpool.
I'm sure everyone knows I'm the biggest Liverpool fan. I've been a Liverpool fan my whole life. I've never watched the game, but apparently we won something. What did we win, mate?
We did, mate. We won the Premier League. We finally won the Premier League.
Again, man.
Again, I know. 20 times now. 20 times we've won.
Is Liverpool the Carlton of old?
I hope not. I really hope not. But nah, look, historically, like one of those really good historical clubs.
Are they like Collingwood?
Look, now that we've gotten better in recent years, maybe, because Collingwood, you know, they're a historically good club and a currently good club. So as disgusting as that sounds, it's for me to say, maybe Liverpool are the Collingwood of the Premier League. But anyway,
I want to start us off with something quickly, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you a hard time for it.
Okay.
But we did miss last week for Easter.
Yes.
Easter break. And there was a little game between Carlton and North Melbourne. And I'm not going to sit there and it's done. I know you guys had a hard time, but what I wanted to just ask you, because I haven't asked you this.
Yes.
I saw a photo of a Smash remote. And can you just walk me through that experience? Because obviously you and Dean had a hard time watching that. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think we both, you guys and me, had higher expectations for that game.
Yes, 100%.
Just walk me through a little bit the emotion of that game, because we haven't really talked about it.
No, we haven't. Look, I'm going to go back of my, it's probably a bit of a suppressed memory of that game.
Yeah, fair enough.
But what I do remember was I thought that we were okay up until a certain point of the game and we were getting hard done. We're getting hard done by the refs, so I was already angry. But then at one stage, it just went really bad. Not just the refs were bad, we were bad. Everything's going really poorly. We're making dumb mistakes all the time. Like, say, Luke McDonald will do something really nice at one point and then immediately turn it over.
Yeah.
Things like that was happening. So basically, I was thinking, before I smashed the remote, about 5 or 10 minutes earlier, I was actually thinking, I want to punch walls right now. I was honestly that angry.
Were you watching it with Dean?
No, I was by myself. I was watching this one by myself. With this game, I actually thought we were a chance to beat you guys at this point.
I thought so as well.
So, look, basically 5-10 minutes before smashing the remote, I was thinking of punching the wall. It turned out that in some moment, I think Kerno had a mark after a mark inside 50 after one of our turnovers. I picked up the remote on the coffee table and just piffed it straight to the floor.
Wow.
Completely, it literally in any piece that this thing was made of, they were all separated. All the pieces were separated. I was able to fix the remote, believe it or not.
That's crazy.
So that's
more impressive than North's performance.
No, 100% it is. Engineer as well. There we go. But anyway, look.
No, that's fair enough.
That game, I'll be honest, really, really demoralized me more than any other game that I've experienced. As just about I'm not going to say entirely, but I haven't felt that disappointed in my sports team in years.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because it seemed like the crowd would. Like the camera was pointing to people in the crowd, and the North fans were like in disbelief, and I was like, holy, like there was just something different about that loss.
We were broken. Yeah. Honestly, I was broken. Honestly, and Dino, I think he'll say it himself. The passion is dwindling quickly. Yeah. Honestly, I'm an enjoyer of the AFL, but it's that North's making it hard, man. In saying that, I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel after this week's game. Adelaide Oval. It is what it is. Do you want to just move into that game?
Sure. I don't mind what order we do.
Yeah, we'll just do a little cheeky. We'll move over to that one. And look, with that game, you said it yourself, this is the worst game of football. Or what was it? I don't know exactly what your quote was.
I just couldn't believe what I was watching because as a neutral fan, right, I'm not invested in necessarily the result. I would have preferred North win it. But it was messy because both teams were playing messy. Or was it messy because the refs were so involved? Or was it... Or were the refs so involved because it was messy? Like, I just couldn't work out what was going on, man.
Honestly, the game was just a meme game. So many weird things were happening. Pal Pepper kicking it into the man on the mark, 10-meter kick.
Yeah.
Just so many weird stuff going on. It was hard to believe. But look, with North, I think in this game, we actually got the rub of the green with the umpires, which I think is, I have to admit it. Like, the umpires almost wanted us to win.
I've never heard you say that, dude.
Yeah, no, I'll be completely honest. I thought we were getting really lucky. Some things probably should have been free kicks, and, Horn Francis, got a bit angry, and I loved, or like Rosie, Butters and Hinkley, like trying to chat with him, trying to like zone him in, trying to calm him down.
Like a crazy toddler.
Yeah, legit. And he's trying to walk off. That was really cool. But look, yeah, what was that? So yeah, I thought we had a good run at it. But we shot ourselves in the foot. Like what cost us the game was Larky shanked 2 regulation set shots. And then he missed one from, 40, 50, which is acceptable. But like when you miss the 2 easy ones and then miss another, bit of a harder set shot, it's like crazy that of all things, like you're going to bank on him nailing his set shots.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. So that kind of just costed us the game in the end, which is pretty disappointing. But yeah, look, I like that we dropped Core and Logue. I like that we put, we have a little bit of we made a statement. I think there's other dudes who deserve to be dropped before them. One of them being the captain, to be honest with you. I think Simpkin, so often he's kind of the weak link in the chains forward. Like he'll hand pass it into the man in the mark, misses kicks. I honestly think when I look at like earlier in the season and I look at the chains of handballs and us progressing the ball forward, I think Will Phillips moves the ball better than Jai Simpkin. Jai Simpkin's just there because he's the captain and he's a hard worker. But like, I don't know, man. The class isn't there.
No, the class isn't there. Like I feel like he's had an okay season, at least stat wise.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's shit when your captain's at the stage of his career where he just doesn't cut it anymore, and you kind of want his spot to go to someone that's going to develop. I think there was a period of time where Carlton experienced that with Mark Murphy as well, so I kind of know what you're talking about.
But look, we've had it even worse in a way because we've had Luke McDonald, and now it's Simpkin as well. I'm looking at him and I'm just like, man, it's hard. I don't know, man. I think we saw in, what was it, the All-Stars game, how classy he was. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not above. It's not like it's not in him to be a good footballer, but it's just like I want to see the skills on a consistent level, and it's not there. But look, anyway, my like takeaway from the game is I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't feel as bad. Like we've gone to Adelaide Oval, we've made a game out of it. We've never won there before, so it shows something. But I think it also shows I don't think Port Adelaide are that great, to be honest with you. I think they're just really inconsistent.
It was weird. Yeah, I think they definitely are. And watching that game, I always felt like it was time for them to step it on and go, all right, Port, do what you need to do. And they just never did it.
They only did it.
Port's not good, or you guys had too much pressure, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They only did it at the end of the first quarter, and I'm like, this is the Port that was versing the Hawks. That was what I saw. But anyway, look, that's my main takeaway from that game. There's probably not much to go into. Like,
fair enough.
Hopefully next week we've got a Thursday game, so we're gonna have a little bit of a shorter break than Essendon. But man, we're going to have Sherry versus Goldstein, man. Sherry has to dominate that.
Yeah.
Master versus the Apprentice.
I think he will.
Yeah, 100%. So Master versus the Apprentice, and the Apprentice is Neil. He's the main man. He's the informed ruckman, in the last couple of weeks. He's been huge.
Yeah.
So hopefully that can set us up, and, we can win the midfield battle, and then, hopefully we can get a W on the board.
Yeah, I think from Port perspective, they just take their win and move on. It's one of those games.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. There was probably a stressful one for them in a way. Port. So Horn Francis, getting starting to crack it a bit. He was probably going to get suspended if they hadn't checked his ego a little bit. But anyway, look, shout out to them. They got the win. We'll move on to the Thursday game.
We'll go back. Yeah.
We'll go back in chronological order, and Melbourne versus Richmond. We expected this, to be honest with you. Funny enough, so for the tipping, AFL tipping, I actually did the gauntlet on Melbourne because I'm like, let's get Melbourne out of the way. Do you know what the gauntlet is?
Oh, you did it start?
Yeah, it started. Did you not do it?
No.
Oh, well, there we go.
Does that mean I'm out?
Yeah. Anyway, look, it
shows what expert I am.
Yeah, I know, but it's all good. Look, the gauntlet, I went with them.
I think that's a good move.
Yeah, because I'm like, you know what, man, this is a game that they're gonna win. Like, I would have been very shocked if they hadn't won it. Richmond sort of kept them honest with it, making it a 20-point game. But
I think Richmond came back late, but there was a big gap in the third quarter. So it was interesting. It was close, and then there was a big blowout, and then Richmond kind of came back, which I think is a good sign from Richmond because it shows that they can run out games, and usually young teams might struggle in that area. I feel like the Tigers are going to have their games are either going to go three ways. this year, which is like they get a surprise win, which might happen when they come against like the Eagles or these type of teams.
Yeah.
But more so, it's going to be competitive for first half, blowout in the second half, or competitive. The other team gets a run and they find a way to make it respectable, and that was this kind of version of the events for the Tigers. But for Melbourne, they just needed to win.
Yeah, 100%. Technical difficulty, guys.
Standard technical difficulty.
That's it. We back, but yeah. Look, I think with this game, like it was pretty much led by Max Gawn just dominating in the ruck.
Yeah.
Like that's some of the stats that I'm sure you've got. Do you have them written down? You usually do.
No, man.
No way. You love these type of stats. Like
I do, man, but it wasn't a clearance stat, so I just didn't worry about it.
True. Well, look, if we do go into clearances, it was 6 clearances.
You read those stats while I fix the alarm. Everything's coming at once.
This is always what happens at BRIS side. Look, so yeah, 25 disposals, 76% disposal efficiency. And what am I doing? This is when I usually talk about Supercoach. So look, we got 2,500 this week, which was pretty good. Now I've just found out that Chera might be out for a round because of suspension. I'm really upset about that, and it's going to have to change my trades. But I want Lockie Neal this week. Sorry, I had to do my...
You have to do that. That's like almost like a tradition at this point.
I almost forgot.
You could be in the middle of a presidential speech, and the alarm goes off, and you're like, so like Chera's like, bang.
Anyway, so between Max Gawn, track, had a bit of a vintage track performance, getting in his goals and getting his his disposals. Bowie.
Yeah,
Bowie's the dude, man. Yeah, he's a great distributor. So I think, if they were a better team, he'd be borderline, all Australian contention. To be honest with you, yeah. There is a lot of decent halfbacks in the league, but you got to give him a little bit of credit.
One thing I noticed from this game is when I was looking at the inside 50s and the clearances, and very similar inside 50s, and I think equal clearance numbers between the two teams, which is not something you'd expect when Melbourne had such a lead at some point, and you think that they're clearly the better midfield side, right? But the D's had a lot more disposals, and they had like 30 more tackles than Richmond. So to me, that says that they've come to apply themselves because they got more of the ball and they're tackling way harder. So clearly the pressure was something that they came and they needed to bring. And they did, and they applied it, and they won the game that they needed to win. But back-to-back wins for Melbourne helps.
Yeah. No, look, I feel like we probably don't see him as a finals team at this stage, but look, it's something that they can build upon. They'll be happy with it.
Hopefully it gives them a bit of confidence, that winning feeling again. I don't know who they have next week, but I guess we'll get to it in the tips. But
yeah, we will. Yeah, 100%. We'll go into the big Anzac Day clash. Now, that was an interesting game. I don't really think Essendon were ever really,
other than like
making it competitive.
They came back in second quarter. They had some back-to-back goals from Durham. Did they hit the lead in the third, early in the third, just by a tiny bit? But other than that, like, they were never really...
Oh, they did make the lead. Okay, maybe we got to settle down. Maybe they were a chance, man.
I don't think they were, man. I feel like the Pie started so strong and they missed a lot of opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And then how much did they destroy them in the last quarter when they ran away with it? So I felt like it was always, David versus Goliath a little bit. And the Pies, they've only lost one game, which is opening round.
That's insane.
They've got the highest percentage, or the second highest percentage, and their defensive profile is insane. I think they're averaging 59 points against, if you exclude the first game that they lost opening round, right? Wow. Which is like premiership status defense. So this team is the premiership favourite, man.
Yeah, no, look,
which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, I know.
For anyone that isn't a Collingwood fan, but make no mistake, these guys are here.
They are. Yeah. Now, look, we've got to give the big plaudits, big shout out to the old man, all shiny head Steely.
Ask me how many clearances, man.
Give it to me, man. Give it to me.
15, bro. Jeez. That's his most clearances he's ever had in his life. Side bottom.
That is insane at 39 years old, however old he is, bro. Like, that's just, shout out to him, man. Like, I think he's a guy who can play in so many positions, obviously, because he's such a versatile player. He's played wing a lot of his, for a lot of, the last few years. But look, he's still got it where he can play centre bounce mid, so.
Well, I feel like he comes to life in wet weather football.
Yeah.
Because he's just a one-touch player. And he did this to Carlton a couple of weeks ago where he was just like taking the piss, laughing, having a good time, racking up the possessions. And it just, maybe he's just one step cleaner than everyone else, and it's exposed more in the wet conditions.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because like being cleaner matters that bit more, when it is wet. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. But yeah, it was the usual suspects for them, side bottom. Both the Dacos boys did very well.
Yeah.
Josh gave him a lot of drive.
He did.
Off halfback, man. Like at one stage, I'm like, geez, this guy's going to get the medal.
Well,
but
he
then
got more coaches' votes than Nick.
which is fair enough because he was I feel like all the footy was going through him. Like in the first half, he probably had 20 disposals or something.
Yeah, I think he did.
Just on his own there. So we like what he brings. I think it makes sense. You move him to halfback. Houston did he play this game?
He did.
He
but
did. And he
didn't have a big impact.
Yeah, it didn't have a big impact. But I think they kind of complement each other well in a way because Dacos is more of the mover, whereas Dan Houston, as great as a kick he is, he's actually like as a halfback, he's really slow.
Yeah.
He's really slow, man. So it sort of makes sense. You got one with speed, one that's got a little bit more height and intercept potential. So I think it's a nice little compliment there. And they seem to keep managing, with a weakened defense. So, Frampton's doing a job down there.
Yeah.
Darcy Moore's been back to career best form, I would say.
Yeah, he's having a great season. I agree with that. And if you want to juxtapose that to, well, not juxtapose, if you want to compare that to Essendon's defense, they actually stood up as well, which was interesting because I think Zach Reid, he's finally getting a run at it.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of building into a nice season. And who was the other defender that played well?
They've got Ridley.
And Ridley as well. So between those two, they actually kept Collingwood's forwards, especially the talls, really quiet throughout the night. The exception was Elliott, who's like a medium. Yeah. But even like Bobby Hill as a small, didn't touch it in the first half, which is rare for him. And he always has his moment, but he wasn't a dominant factor. And he's the type of player that would, in the wet, get away, kick a couple of goals. So I felt like they were really strong in the intercept and they really provide a lot of rebound, those two players. So I thought that was the one positive for Essendon is those two players stood up. And I guess Reid being not necessarily a young player, but a player that hasn't played many games, if he can kind of continue that form, that helps him because I feel like it's been an area of weakness, the tall defenders.
Yeah, 100%. Look, and I remember when Reid, during his first couple games, he looked very shaky, right? But when Ridley comes in, it's just another big body down there. Both of them can intercept. So all of a sudden you have two interceptors and you have Ben Mackay, who's the big body. You'd rather the ball not in his hands, which, sometimes it ends up there. But, at least he can, keep a forward, occupied, which is good. So no, look, I think with them, at least they've got a few pieces where you can say, all right, I know you're okay. I know you're good. I know you're good. I know you're good for the young guys, I just don't know if I don't think it's happening this season, man. Like, Caddy's cool, Durham's cool, Kako's cool. Who else? Reid, Caldwell's out at the minute. So there's some nice pieces there. It's just putting it all together. I don't know if it's all there just yet.
Yeah. Look, I think they've had pieces for a long time and they can't quite put it together. The disadvantage they have now is they're going to have to rely on Goldstein for a long time.
Yeah, true.
And he stood up okay, but I don't know. If you want to talk about ancient footballers, I mean, I don't know how much more football this guy has in him, and he's going to have to be a big load now. So I think 2 meter Peter's going to have to ruck a bit, but obviously as a second ruck. But
he's kicking goals up forward, man, so you need him down there.
Yeah, you want him up forward. So that's something that's going to be a watch for Essendon. And then I guess McStay's out for 6 to 8 weeks with an MCL as well, so that challenges. He's a good structure player for the Pies.
Yeah, true.
Maybe they have to rely on Cox or restructure their forward line a little bit.
Yeah, Cox is probably the obvious pick, I would say. I can't really think. They have, I think it's Charlie West, might be a young key forward for them West, they picked up. I've seen some, he popped up on Twitter for me, like, as a young key forward who
apparently
can maybe step in.
Was he emergency? Or he was kind of in amongst it.
I'm not sure. So who knows?
I don't know much about him, but...
Yeah, look, I think between Membry, Myercheck, there's a bit of, tall timber there. Do they need the third one? It might not even be
look at Schultz. Schultz is in there. Elliott.
Yeah.
DeGoey can play a forward role. So
Schultz should be back soon this week, maybe. So,
not the end of the world.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, premiership favourites. Into the next one, Freo and Adelaide. Yeah, I was working during this one.
This looks like it was a close game, but at one point it was 80-38 at 3/4 time.
That's insane, man.
So, I mean, it was all Adelaide in the last quarter. I don't know, did Freo just put the stops on the game and decide to just wait it out? And whenever teams do that, the other team usually comes and scores some goals.
Yeah.
And then I guess if Adelaide's so far behind, they don't have anything to lose, so they play with a bit more flair. But make no mistake, Freo dominated this game.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that says about Adelaide, because we started the season thinking, shit, these guys are red hot.
I know. I was thinking, man, these guys could be premiership contenders here, but now it's all of a sudden it's like if they're not at home, it's like we don't really back them to do anything.
Yeah.
And Freo are a decent side,
they
but
are.
like, you know, I think a little bit of alarm bells from Adelaide, man. They need to start racking up some W's.
Yeah.
I think we talked about their fixture a little while ago. And I don't know if it was last prod or previous one before that, but if we look at their run now, they've got Carlton at Adelaide Oval, so that's an interesting one. Then they have win, you reckon?
Yeah, they'll win.
Then Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, then Collingwood. Okay, then they got the West Coast, so it's kind of like, all right.
But that's 3 challenging teams at least.
Yeah, 100%. Like, because you never know what's going to happen in a derby. Carlton are in great form. If they were to lose all 3, they do pop out. They're still in the 8 at the minute.
They're 4-3. Both teams are 4-3, right? So it's not terrible.
No, so I guess, you know what, maybe I've got to calm down. They're still okay. But yeah, it's just they got to get a couple wins in these next 3 games to, you know, to stay afloat. You know, or look, I think realistic would be 2 wins, 2 losses out of those 4.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Win one of the tough ones. You beat West Coast. Yeah,
percentage boost to West Coast. You need. They're the type of team that will bury West Coast and.
Oh yeah, they'll love it.
Talk to me about Andy Brayshaw, man. Your boy. Dominating, mate.
He's better than Sarong, I think, now, man. I think, look, maybe as a clearance player.
Sarong's better as a clearance player.
Exactly. But I think when it comes to an all-round midfielder, Andy B is the guy at the minute, man. Just dynamic, speed, two-way, you know. I think, he's been excellent, man. I think, what's his Brownlow odds, bro?
I don't know, but he would have been a good bet at the start of the year.
Oh, yeah. 100%, man. Because now we've seen him poll well in the past. Like, he might have been 3rd one year, maybe
a couple of years ago, he won like the coaches.
Yeah, he won the
Players Association.
The MVP. He won the MVP. So look, I think it's kind of swung around the other way. You know, we thought that Sarong was probably the better one last year and, you know, the year before, but I noticed that, and this is from my Supercoach research, that from the bye round last year onwards, Andy Brayshaw was 10 ranking points higher than Sarong to end the season. So it was kind of turning then. And now it's sort of continued into this season. So shout out to Andy Brayshaw, man.
100%. The only thing I'll say is like Sarong's still an extremely good player. Like he still pulled 32 possessions, 10 clearances. The problem with him is I think he's copying the attention from the opponents now. And I think that's allowing Andy to get off the leash a little bit. And maybe Freo has a little bit more support in the midfield. I'm not sure. But Sarong's kind of copying the brunt of it. And so he's forced to affect the game in the inside.
Yeah.
And then Brayshaw has more of the ability to hit him on the outside with like Hayden Young as well. So, I don't think Sarong's going to get looked after in terms of the votes. Brayshaw, if he kicks a goal, if he gets 37 possessions, whatever he did there, it's a more flashy performance. So that's going to help him out.
No, 100%. That's fair. Look, I think at what stage do you start turning the attention to Brayshaw then? If he's going to be a bit more damaging, a bit more flashy, when the clubs just go, all right, we need to tag this guy instead.
Yeah, maybe. But it's also, he's a different profile of a player, so you'd have to have a good matchup for him.
Yeah,
because
you need
more
a
of a
good
running
runner.
player.
Yeah, 100%. Like, whereas a set, like say, I'm thinking like Essendon's taggers, right? Setterfield would take the clearance
Sarong
guy. He would take the Sarong. Then Durham, the guy who was trying to run with Dakes, would go with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever other team. You know, like maybe a Jordan could match up with with Brayshaw. You know, but
I feel like Jordan hasn't been that effective this year.
No, not quite.
Like, he tried to take Dakos a couple of weeks ago, and Dakos made him look like a fool.
Yeah. Well, look, against Neil in the first round, he destroyed him.
Yeah.
So that's the only kind of scalp he's had so far.
And Neil is kind of a player that doesn't quite have the same level of burst he used to. He's not really a running player, more like a clearance player. So
maybe it makes sense there, but but he's a good trading option for Supercoach for those who.
I think I've got him this week too.
Yeah, no, I can't help it, man. It's $560K for Neil, man, and his break even's like an 80-some. I've got to get him.
You got to. Also, McDonald kicked 2 goals.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a shame he's going to get dropped. He's going to get dropped for Luke Jackson, unless like you can't drop Tracy. Who's their other key forward man in there? Let me have a quick look. Who's the other key forward? I can't think. Amos. No way you can drop Amos.
And
right?
Voss is going to come back soon.
And Voss is an option as well. So it's like all of a sudden 2 guys can come back and put you down the pecking order.
How shit would that feel when you're like, I played at Carlton, I played some other team, I can't remember. I've been a journeyman. I finally get my opportunity. I'm playing well. Dropped.
Yeah, no, that's like, look, what if he doesn't?
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't, man.
But, you know, but I'd be surprised. I would be very surprised because I think obviously someone has to make way for Luke Jackson. And it's going to have to be him or Amos, right? And then Voss, I feel like Voss is the next.
He's had a good season.
Yeah, but you can't have him over Amos.
No.
Either, you know what I mean? Like you can't even. Or in Treacy, he's untouchable as
He's
as
the
a
best
player.
forward since Pavlich, mate.
Mate, 100. Mate, he's better than Thilthorpe. Some might say in a redraft video. Might have to change my mind on that one,
Yeah,
to be honest
so.
with you. But I love Treacy. But I love his attack on the footy. You know, the contested possessions, or the contested marks, and this and that. We'll move on to the other game.
Yeah, let's
next
do
game. So
Saints Lions.
yeah, Look,
Brereton was commentating this game, so immediately it's a write-off, man.
yeah. So it's a bit of it's a tough.
So we did. So
tough viewing.
next game.
Next game.
It is a tough listen to, that guy, man.
Yeah, he is, man. He is. But look, this game it's much what you'd expect, man. It's just, Neil having his, bit of his best game of the season. 3 goals. Zorko did his thing. Bailey does a 3-goal performance. All of a sudden, we feel better about Bailey because he's been kind of mid to this point of the season.
He has. You know who's been mid as a small forward for Lions?
I know who you're going to say. Charlie Cameron.
Bro, that guy can't buy a goal, man. You want to guess how many goals he's kicked this year? I've got it. I looked it up.
3?
4. It's a good get. That's a terrible return, man.
That
It's been
for
7
him,
games.
Man, he's one of those dudes who gets 4 or 5 goals in games. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Let alone in a whole year. That's really poor. Look, in saying that, better that he's having the yips now, and then he can hopefully get better towards the end of the season and towards finals. But
Which I'm sure he will, by the way.
yeah, because he's one of the premier small forwards in the game. Like I think he's at his best. He might be the best small forward in the game, right?
Yeah, from an athletic perspective, I reckon he is.
Not just that, man,
from a
just
scoring perspective, like he's kicked 50 goals every year for who knows how long. So.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, that's
Well, the Saints actually have a pretty good small forward in Jack Higgins.
yeah, man.
Second in the common, mate.
That's insane. That's insane. He can't help but score goals, man. He's
Yeah.
just smart footballer, knows where to be, puts pressure on, he tackles as well. I really like Jack Higgins, man.
Yeah, underrated, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, look, if he maintains this, right, even in a bad team, if you're 2nd, 3rd, 4th in the Coleman as a small forward, you're definitely All-Australian.
Without a doubt.
Like, so, shout out to him. Naz, a bit of centre bounce work.
I liked it.
I liked it too, man. Like, I think it adds speed into that midfield that they don't have and precise kicking because Steele doesn't really have that. McRae does, I think, when he gets into space a bit, but it does provide a lot of drive for them.
Yeah.
Something that they've got to look into, for the rest of the season, into the future, because McRae and Steele can only do it for so long. They're going to have Philippou back soon.
He adds a bit of point of difference, I think.
100%. So I think
yeah.
it's kind of exciting. A bit of fun for them at least, Like this game was a bad game for them, but at least there's a little bit of excitement with some young guys who you can chuck into the guts.
I think they've got a couple of those options, and I'm not surprised they tried something with Naz because they're getting smashed in the centre, and there's a pretty poor performance. And there was even some footage of Ross Lyon giving it to Garcia.
Yeah. Well, he got subbed in the end.
And which there's a bit of a talking point of whether that was the right thing, something or not. But Zach Jones had an immediate impact, and those commentators let us know that he was having an impact every 2 minutes, so you couldn't ignore it either. But to be fair, I think Lyon got criticised a bit about that, but at the same time, the sub made an impact, and the Saints did make a run at it in the 3rd quarter. They came. Lions kicked a couple at the end of the 3rd quarter, and you're like, oh, that's the game. They're not going to come back now. They had their chance to kind of go for it, and then they kind of blew away in the 4th. But that was their kind of one opportunity, the Saints, to kind of make it happen. But let's be honest, they'll never win that game, and we never really expected them to.
Nah. Anyway, that's probably enough talking about that game, to be honest. The next game was Port and North, but we've already discussed that one since we jumped ahead on that one. GWS versus the Bulldogs. Now, here is a contender, I think.
You reckon?
Yeah, man. Yeah, look, I think Bont comes back in. They rested him in the last quarter.
Yeah.
They subbed him off.
That's insane, bro.
That's what Adelaide.
disrespect.
That's what Adelaide did to Essendon.
Yeah.
They've done it to GWS in a home game. Canberra, not necessarily a proper home game, but in Canberra where GWS usually do well. I think we've got to start giving them some respect, man.
Yeah.
I think obviously Bont comes in and he's a monster.
What a difference
Matt
one
Kennedy.
player makes.
Matt Kennedy's a gun.
He's a gun.
He's a gun. I think he needed to go for you guys so he can get to here. It works out for you guys because you got George Hewitt.
Yeah.
Both of those dudes who are on the fringe of being proper centre bounce attendance midfielders Both have their opportunity now. It's great for the league.
Yeah,
It's great for you guys.
I always kind of said I liked McKennie and we knew he was talented, but he just kind of didn't fit fully in the team. Like he was played at half back, he's played half forward, he's kind of fitting in because he's a good player, he kind of makes it work. But he really needed a full position and he's getting that at the Dogs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the swap out from McRae in a way, and it's an upgrade because of his current output and goal kicking ability.
100%.
But it's funny you mentioned the homegrown advantage, if you want to call it that. Dogs have won 7 of their last games against the Giants.
Wow.
Well, I didn't know that. If I'd known that, I would have tipped them.
Well, that makes me think, maybe they're not contenders. This was just their, their GWS bogey team. Like, I don't know. But look, I think it was like a crazy way to start the game where you drop Liam Jones, who is at one stage, I thought last year and maybe even the year before, rejuvenated as a player, came back from, was it Carlton? He didn't want to get
the vaccine.
Yeah, he didn't want to get the vaccine, so he didn't. He wasn't able to continue with Carlton. Eventually gets to the Dogs and he was huge. He was great. They dropped him, They didn't see him as, providing the same great traits as usual. They bring in Buslinger, who's a solid young player. I think he was using the footy well. He did well enough, right? But not only did they drop an experienced key defender in Liam Jones, they moved Lob into the forward line. Yeah. And Lob's bald now. Which was very confronting.
He changes his hairstyle every week, man. I can't keep up with this guy.
I know. That was very, seeing him, he was very shiny, you know what I mean? So I think they called him a beacon at one point. I'm like, that's very fitting, this the shining, the shiny tall, what's it called?
He's a beacon up forward, mate.
Yeah, one of those, what are they called? Those watchtower things,
Lighthouse.
Those lighthouses, that's what we call them. So that was crazy that he went with that, Jesse Hogan in GWS's forward line. He's like, we're going to move our 2 most experienced key defenders. I guess, I don't know if you can call Lob experienced key defender, but experienced player, right? Yeah. We're going to get rid of both of them and we're going to put young guys in there. We're going to move Lob forward. But it worked out in the end. Yeah. Those young defenders managed to hold their own against, a decent forward line,
Well, it was a really good performance from the Dogs. Like, it can't be understated. They kept the Giants to 1 point in the third quarter. And that point came in the last minute from a free kick.
Man,
that is a serious defensive effort. And this is a team that struggled with defense and struggled stopping teams transition for many years, right? And now they're held strong against the Giants, who are not firing like they should, right? But are keeping them scoreless and scoring themselves, right? And they're doing it with 7 players with 20 games or less, right? So with the ability to have these injuries at the start of the year, you see the difference Bont has. This is a player that can't be replaced. He comes in and he's just an insane weapon. But you get how much better does Joel Freya look, or however you say his name? You talked about Buslinger. Who else has kind of come in and made Cleary, Hines, Dolan? Those 2 players are not setting the world on fire, but they're getting game time. Davidson's probably the other one on the wing. So they're getting games into younger players and experience while their other players are coming in, and they've got a 4-3 record, I think, which is positive to the ledger.
100%, man. And this is, a week after they lose Darcy to an injury, which, look, in the end, he's not having surgery, so he could be back by the end of the year, right in time for finals. Could be perfect for them, man.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for the Dogs, man. I'm excited. You know what? We've got to give flowers to a guy that we've given a lot of shit to. Let's be fair. And he's a Greek boy as well, or half Greek, apparently. He's in the Greek team of the century somehow. But Bevo. Bevo.
He's coaching well this year.
He's coaching excellently, man. He's making crazy decisions, like the one I was saying earlier about the key defender situation. He's making it work. I think you give him the money, honestly, I think you re-sign him. He's the right man for the job because he's motivating these dudes on a week-to-week basis, he's making good, coaching decisions that, we didn't expect. I think he's doing great, man.
Yeah.
I think, credit where credit's due for Bevo.
I think some players have improved recently as well. Talk about someone like Riley West, he's pretty underrated.
Yeah.
I think they were saying something like one of the best, if not the best, ground ball player in forward 50. It's not something you'd expect, right? But when you actually watch him play, he's one out on the goal square. And he becomes almost like a Dustin Martin profile type of... It's which is not someone Riley West, bro.
That feels wrong, man.
It feels wrong, but he kicked... How many goals did he kick? He kicked 3 goals. Harms kicked 4 goals. Sometimes, Harms actually... Is he okay?
He might actually be a decent player in the end. You know
Kennedy,
what I mean?
2 goals as well. So they're getting a spread. Where do their goals come from if, Darcy's gone, Jamara's not there? Well, look at the spread of goal kickers that they're getting from across the board.
Mm.
Players that you'd never expect. You're not going to expect 4 goals from Harms every week, but if you're getting 1 or 2 from Kennedy, you're getting a couple from Harms. West is a small forward that's getting involved. Bont will kick a goal.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
100%.
So, like, that was quite an impressive game, and it was a shellacking in the midfield. Like, which is, you think the Giants have enough star power in the midfield to make things work, but they got annihilated.
They did. And, they keep losing mids, and I thought that they kept replacing them, but they haven't replaced them well enough in the end, man. Like, I think looking at Bulldogs mid, when you think about it, you've got Bont is physical, but he's also class, and he's also tall. He literally has it all.
Yeah.
And then you have 3 dogs, like Libba, Kennedy, and Richards.
Yeah,
They're all
dogs.
They are dogs, man. And even Fraser, a bit of a dog as well. It's a fun midfield. Tim English is, he's doing okay this year. I think he's like started to improve. He's intercepting around the ground. They're playing to his strength, which is good. So yeah, I'm excited for the Dogs, to be honest with you. I did not expect a win there. I didn't expect some of those shifts that they made in the ground, and yeah, no, I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I agree with that, man.
Next one. Mate, second half blitz for Georgie's boys.
Dude, 12 unanswered goals against Sydney is crazy.
Look, I'll be honest.
12 goals, bro.
I got invited for a coffee halfway through the game. I'm just like, I don't need to watch the rest of the game anyway. And then I looked at my phone. I'm like, what? What the hell happened?
Yeah, I know.
So, look, alarm bells for Sydney.
Has to be. They've only won 2 games.
Yeah, it's not good, man. Like, what do they need to do, man? Like, do they need Millsy back? Like, I've said that probably every week.
Yeah. Look, I think you're right, because they probably need some leadership, right? Because who do you rely on when, how does an experienced team like City not stop a run of goals, 12 goals, right?
Yeah.
You look to your leaders, right? And you go, who are their leaders? Well, Heaney's a leader. I mean, Millsy's their captain. He's not playing.
Yeah.
Someone like Papley's the type of guy that can go in the midfield and, get a clearance against the run. He's not there.
Yeah.
Goulden is not there. So, like, some of their best players aren't there. And we've seen the impact like Bontempelli has. You can't deny that.
Stars.
You can say, it's not an excuse that Goulden's not there. But, like, if they're creme de la creme players, right, they're going to make a difference. But Sydney almost reminded me recently of, like, the criticism we have of Carlton, which is, like, they've got these star powers, but maybe the rest of the team is not as good as we think. And, like, they're a skillful team, but you just wonder, do some of their best players make the other players look good? Because
that's fair.
It looks like they've got a depth issue. They've only won 2 games. Like, these guys were in the grand final last year, but they got smashed. And maybe they got smashed because their lesser light players got exposed on the bigger stage. It's just a theory. I don't know. I mean, if you look at their goals, like Nick Blakey kicked 3 goals, which that's unsustainable from a halfback.
Yeah, unless they move him forward, which he was a forward in his junior years. All of a sudden,
not, right?
I don't know. Well,
maybe because if they've got Bice, they've got more flexibility.
Yeah, you got Roberts
as well.
You know what I mean? I think the thing is with Blakey is that he's decent as an actual defender as well, because he can randomly be a key defender. You know what I mean? He's one of those dudes.
Plays tall.
He does play tall, even though he also plays with such energy as well. Dane Rampy, they've got him still. They've moved McCartan back now.
They got
the key positions on both ends of the ground is
an issue. Like Francis come in, he's like had a bit of an impact up forward, but he was like a defender in Essendon.
Yeah,
and they just can't seem to quite work it out. They're missing Amadi, which like Amadi's no star, but they're missing him.
Yeah, but he's someone who can randomly give you
Logan McDonald's not playing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him.
I'm not even sure if he's injured or not. I'm assuming he is, right?
Yeah,
maybe you can check that. But pretty poor from Sydney. Like, it's hard to believe these guys were the most dominant team all year last year.
I know.
And for that reason, I do think that they're going to have their patch where they have a big run. Like, I just can't see it not happening.
Yeah.
But then you look at some of those premiership hangover stats where you get smashed in the grand final and like you don't make the finals next year, you struggle. Yeah. They're literally doing that before our eyes. From a Suns perspective, Bailey Humphrey career game.
Yeah. Mate, he killed me in draft.
Yeah.
He did me.
He did. I think he did a lot of people in the fantasy world.
Yeah, but, no, legit. How many people would have traded him out this week? Oh, my God. Those poor people.
It happens, man. Yeah. But, yeah, he's a developing player that he's adding strings to his bow, so that's good for Gold Coast. Yeah. I had a look at the stats and where everyone was playing, and I know that Sam Flanders is contracted for a couple more years, but I just wonder whether other teams are going to look at him as a trade target.
I think they should be, because he
doesn't have a position anymore.
No, they just sort of float him around, and like I know the first half he was kind of Like, it wasn't really
Nowhere,
doing much
bro.
at all.
He was nowhere.
All of a sudden, he managed to work his way into the game. But yeah, no,
That's
look,
from midfield time, man.
yeah, exactly. Like, I think, say, like, a club who has some, say, like Carlton, for example, you guys have some balls in the middle. You wanted someone to add a little bit of speed. You know what I mean? A little bit of dash. I don't know exactly where he fits.
I like him off the half back, but they've just got Rioli and Noble.
True.
So they've just taken two players that weren't in the team, thrown them right into their natural positions, and Flanders is like playing that half forward role, which is such a shit role to play.
Yeah,
a lot of players got to die there, man.
This is your Supercoach draft talk happening right now, because you picked him up.
This is why I've been aware of it, because you probably wouldn't notice Flanders because you got Rao, you got Anderson, you got all these players that are playing good football.
Yeah,
and you think to yourself like, what? They're not maximizing this guy at all.
Yeah,
and is it because there's just no role for him? Miller was injured last year. He's coming back. He's having a great season. They're all positives for the Suns. They still got to find a way to make this guy work though. And
look, I think that just shows like the list build.
They've got mouths to feed, dude. They still got like we talk about Humphrey, who can play a bit of forward, but like who are the other midfield? Who's that young kid? Will
Graham.
Will Graham,
mate. They are so stacked. And the AFL's blessed them, to be honest with you. And I can't really be too critical of that because North have been blessed with a little bit of stuff, but not a lot. But, mate, they've made it work. They've made it work out. And I think you look at them and GWS and it's like all of a sudden you can look at Gold Coast's list build favourably. You know what I mean? At this stage.
Yeah.
Not obviously in the past, GWS have had it done better, but now it's just like,
well, they've had weight of numbers now. Yeah. And what's going to happen is they're going to become a really strong team, but then they're going to start to lose players. And it's gonna work that way because they're gonna have draft picks, academies. They've got all these players that over the next couple of years are gonna demand a lot of money. Yeah, like their forwards, the Jed Walters of the world, the Reeds, and all these people, right? Yeah, and it's gonna put pressure, and then they're gonna let people go, and that's just the natural way of it when you get so many picks and they all come up.
That's true, but before that happens, they might go and win a premiership, bro. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows?
It was at home, and Sydney are not the greatest team, but
and look, and this is what they do at home. This is where they do their business, and maybe I should have tipped them in the end because I just can't tip, bro. I cannot tip.
Yeah,
like I tipped Sydney. Like that's dumb. Gold Coast at home, and I like.
You know why? Because you're trying to win back tips. That's why.
It's probably that. It's probably a bit of that.
And I tried to win back tip with the Blues, and I got one, man.
That's huge.
So now I'm only like 8 behind the leader.
And what a segue that is into the game, bro.
Yeah.
I'll let you have the floor, mate.
Look, we're back, baby.
We're back. The Blues are back.
You got to say, like, I respect Geelong a lot. I think they're a great team.
I agree. I
love the way they play.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the Geelong Cats are like either the most efficient team inside 50 or one of them. And Carlton, I think, was the least efficient inside 50. So it's like polar opposite teams, but we play okay against this team. I don't know if it's just we match up okay or we're just better in the midfield.
Yeah.
But we smashed them last year and we smashed them again in the midfield, like hard for 3 quarters, like really hard. And it just looked like a Carlton game again. It looked like the Carlton game that when we were dominating mid last year, forward handballs, a procession of forward 50 entries that have like some sort of a dynamic nature to them. You need Harry and Charlie in this team. Not every team needs 2 key forwards, but we just need it because we lack a bit. Carlton's not a classy team, and we're looking at the Hawthorns of the world and all these other teams that play that kind of more modern brand, and you go, well, Carlton isn't that teammate, right? Carlton isn't that team because they just don't have the class, but they do have the aggression.
Yeah.
So my worry with these guys is how much work they have to do to play that aggressive style. But when they put it together, man, it looks amazing. And like
it'd be fun. I've got to say, if you're a Carlton supporter, you would have very much enjoyed that game.
Yeah, it looked like a Carlton game, and like we actually beat Geelong a lot harder than the scoreboard says. Geelong is just such a good team that they're efficient, and we wasted so many opportunities. Like we're just one of those teams where are a little bit dumb. Let's be honest. A little bit, they lack a bit of class and a little bit dumb, but boy, they work hard. And when they put it together, it looks pretty good. So, very positive because it's a big scalp and we've got a bit of momentum now. I just thought that a couple of players really stood up. Like Nick Haynes had his best game for Carlton.
Yes,
8 intercept marks.
He was great.
He's the type of guy that you pick him up and you're hopeful, and then round 1, he looks like the worst player in the world against Richmond, and you think, oh, he's past it. But he's built into the season and he showed himself. Even like Mitch McGovern, he's such a... I talk about this guy all the time. He's the biggest hack, but then he's also quite a good footballer, and you just wish you saw the better side of him more often than not, because he was tough, man. Jack Silvani in the back line, revelation. And then, the midfield boys continued. I felt like Walsh is finally getting his game going a bit more. He's playing a little bit more of the running as an option, so he looks a bit better. And the Smalls, Carlton is a really high-pressure forward 50 team.
Yeah.
One of the best in the comp. And we're also one of the best of the comp at transitioning the ball from D50 to forward 50, which you wouldn't expect.
No.
Because they always look so stupid doing it. Their problem is that conversion piece. But when they have such a powerful midfield performance and they get that forward handball, those meters gained from the handballs, and they take that little extra option, right, instead of bombing it in, that helps them with their conversion. Yeah. And I feel like they've got that right over the last couple of weeks. So positive from them.
No, 100%, man. Yeah, now look, from an outsider perspective, Harry Mackay, that's like a very heartening performance for him, for everyone involved, because he had a really tough time to start the season, had his personal stuff, then he got concussed on his game back. He had 12 marks, man. 12 marks and
5
3 goals.
Contested marks.
And that's contested marks can single-handedly win you games because it just breaks a game open.
100%.
And that's, so he was excellent. Kerner had 3 contested marks in his own right. Nick Haynes had 2. Look at it. You look at it like that, it's like, geez, man, it's hard not to win when you're
that's
creating.
Right. We should have won by more. We just did dumb stuff, and that's Cullen's inefficiency. But like, you add someone like Elijah Hollands.
Yeah, he looked great straight off the bat, man.
That's what a classy player does, right? You can see night and day. You talk about like a side bottom and how clean he is. You put like someone that can actually one-touch the ball, and it just makes the team look 10 times better.
Yeah.
So we've got to find a way over the next year or 2 years to find a way to add some class into the team to complement the bullish type nature of the players.
Well, hopefully one of them is Jagger Smith next year.
Which he might be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, look, Dino had him. I think Dino had him number one.
Number one, yeah.
In his draft, final ranking or whatever it was, whatever vid we did back in the day. So that he comes in. Hollands, Elijah Hollands, Hollands of the Elijah variety.
Yeah, even though Ollie looked alright as well.
Yeah, look, I don't mind Ollie.
Played a bit of midfield.
Yeah, he's a little bit like. He's just not that clean, but at least he goes in. You know what I mean? Yeah.
He's a bad Bailey Smith.
A bad Bailey Smith. I get you. I kind of get you.
You kind of get it. Like, obviously, he's got a slight build, so he's not. He doesn't have the aggression of the Bailey Smith, but he's kind of like a headless chook.
Yeah, headless chook footballer, but he doesn't have the power. No. You know what I mean? Because Bailey Smith, he can. It works
they're
out.
They're both running plays, right? They both got amazing tanks. But like, if he builds his body up, like Ollie Hollands, he doesn't shy away from a contest.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether he'll end up being like a bad Bailey Smith. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It might be not a bad comparison. I don't know. Maybe it's stupid. I don't know.
I think, you know what? It's kind of like, because you guys have a winger, hard-running winger, but he's big. He's got a bit of weight to throw around. That's Blake Acres. Yeah. You know what I mean?
He's the worst kicking efficiency player in the comp.
Exactly. If you can kind of fuse the two of those guys together, Blake, he gets into the gym with Blake Acres, who's got that, that aggression and he's a bit of a bigger body winger.
Yeah, he's a huge boy.
So, there's something there with both of the Hollands boys, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be excited. I'd be very excited for you guys, man. Like, you guys beating us was cool, obviously, and it was like, oh yeah, this is the Carlton we want to see, just, foot on the throat. But now you've done it on a good team,
That's what we needed to do. So that's something, honestly, credit to Voss for kind of, at least finding a way to kind of get them to play the style that he wants them to play. We'll see whether it stacks up, but it's positive. Just where was this at the start of the year? This is a team that lost to Richmond, man. How?
It's insane.
Like I bring it up every week because it's just, anyway.
It's like, I got to say, like, I forget with footy how much there's such variance in what can happen with teams. Like, say for North, we went and smashed Melbourne.
Yeah,
we smashed Melbourne. Now Melbourne are looking all right. And then a couple of weeks after that, got smashed by Carlton, who got lost to Richmond. It's just the way it swings around is just.
If you put it that way, that's hilarious.
Yeah, no, even like Port. Who did they get smashed by? They got smashed by someone, right?
Yeah,
I can't remember. Early on in the season when they sucked, then they go and smash Hawthorn.
Yeah.
And Hawthorn are at the start of the season, we're thinking, premiership favourites here.
Yeah.
It's such a weird sport. And I think you notice it, I feel it more now, having spent, how many, sleepless nights watching Premier League, and you just know what's going to happen most nights. There's a bit of a script that usually runs if you're a fan of one of the big teams. But, in the footy, it's so unpredictable, man.
Yeah. I also believe that the time that you actually get a team is actually important. What
Yeah,
I mean by, like,
100%.
if you play Richmond round 1, they're going to be more dangerous than round 15.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So,
like,
and if a team comes off 2 bad losses, you know that they're going to come firing with that little bit extra, and that little bit extra might be enough to carry them over the line. So when you play a team also matters.
It's just momentum, I guess, for the teams, you know, like where their headspaces are at, where they're, you know, how they're running their structures. I don't know how it can swing, you know, so wildly, but it happens, man. Finish it off with Hawks and Eagles and
look, Hawthorn beat a team they're always going to beat. I just wonder with West Coast, they're obviously a team in a bit of a crisis, but when
just bring the mouse close to you, don't we?
yeah. Anyway, when you look at their team sheets and it changes by 4 people every week, you just wonder, like, they're obviously trying really hard to work out who to invest their time in, but there's just no continuity in any of the players. Like, Kelly drops, Kelly comes back in. All these, like, young kids that we see, like, on a fantasy perspective, Gross and whoever else, and then they get one game and they get dropped. It's like, I just wonder about that. I guess they have to try different people to see, but you also got to give kids, like, time.
Yeah, I reckon a kid like this isn't just the fantasy perspective, but Gross was one of your, you know, first or second round picks this year, and he showed that he's okay at the level. You know what I mean? He shows a bit of aggression, shows a bit of drive. He got a 20+ disposal game in the Waffle. Why isn't he in there?
Yeah.
I don't really get it, to be honest with you.
They put, like, Oscar Allen in the back line. He can't have a good game to save himself.
Yeah, just play Sandy Brock. Just play Sandy Brock. Play Harry Edwards, whatever his name is. Play those guys, bro, and leave Oscar Allen the forward line. You need, you know, he's an impact player there. You know, like,
so that's the only kind of talking point I think I have of West Coast is they're trying to work out who to invest time in. And it seems like there's no good options. No. Like, there was Flynn, you played Flynn, and then you dropped Flynn, and then you brought Flynn back in, and he's played okay, but he got annihilated, really.
Yeah.
So do you continue with Flynn because give him more than one game in a row, or do you go back to, like, Williams, or?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you play both? You play both, and then all of a sudden you have, you know, a bit of height, a bit of structure going forward. You know, Bailey Williams can, you know, maybe crash a pack if you can manage to win a clearance.
Yeah,
you know,
which you can't because your first round superstar pick Reed's playing in the back line and you're not giving him time to, like, he's another one. Like, what's going on there? Yeah. So they're just honestly terrible to watch, man. And you kind of look at that fixture, the West Coast fixture, and you just go, all right, the team versing them is going to win, and I'm not even going to watch it. Like, that's 100%. How you feel about it.
Yeah, that's it. And let's be fair, that's what happened for us for this game. Like, I didn't have the need to see what happened. And
no, I'm not going to pretend like an expert in Hawthorn's performance.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, look, I don't know. I feel sorry for West Coast, but at the same time, I think they're the richest club in Australia. I don't know. They got that. I don't know. What do they have? That mining money? I don't know where they get their money from.
They're a very successful club, man. But they've been down for a while now, and they haven't. There's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Are they going to get, you know, the North Melbourne package? You know, even though, look. People talk about the North Melbourne package. It really wasn't that much, bro. I swear. Like, I think about it. Like, honestly, what was it? A second and third round pick that we had to trade? Come on, man. It really wasn't that crazy. Like, actually, the end of the firsts were interesting, but we ended up getting Dylan Stevens and Zach Fisher for him. It was kind of like,
you know, you can have those players back. You know what I mean?
Bro. Anyway.
You give them back to the teams.
I'll give it. Look, I don't mind Dylan Stevens too bad, to be honest with you. I don't think Zach Fisher.
But he was like a pick 5, dude. He's not playing. He's not playing pick 5 level.
No way. I don't understand how that happened. Yeah. Like, I guess he shows pace and a little bit of skill, but like at the top level, it's
Sydney's not dumb, man. If they're giving you a player, Constanti. You know what I mean? Like,
look, Constanti, apart from the shush that he did, that was dumb. Oh. I don't mind Constanti, to be honest with you. He's got a little bit of dog in him, you know.
That shush was ridiculous.
Oh, bro, that's just. I think that just. Yeah, no, I don't want to judge the guy too hard, but that was dumb.
That was like a Sydney culture thing or something. Like, we didn't know about that in Melbourne.
Yeah, no, it's like, I don't know. Like, I think you got to remember who you're playing for right now, bro. You're not playing for Sydney.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway,
fair enough. Let's do some tips, eh?
Yeah, let's do it, bro. We'll jump into first game.
Do you have the competition up to read those names, or we'll do it after?
I'll start bringing it up. You start talking about who's coming up. Do you have
Essendon North.
Look,
I'm gonna go North, man.
I'm going North as well because anytime I think we have a chance to win, I'm tipping them. But I don't feel good about it, and let the records show that, as Dano would say.
Any remote in Melbourne, just be careful on Thursday night. Yeah, you don't want to be broken again.
Oh, bro, if we If we lose again, bro.
We're
Like,
smashing
if we get
the
smashed, that's the thing. If we get smashed,
If you get smashed,
oh,
maybe just like give up on AFL for a bit.
honestly, like the AFL enjoying is very difficult when your team sucks hard. I will tell you that.
100%.
Supercoach is kind of keeping me. It kind of keeps me involved.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, I'm starting to turn to betting to get me myself involved. You know what I mean? That's sad, bro. You know what I mean? Like
The gateway drug, bro.
gateway drug.
Check
your
on
team
your North
sucks.
fans.
You know,
Check on your North fans. Make sure they're not betting more than they,
exactly, man. More than their means.
more than their
But
means.
anyway, we're gonna do some shout outs actually after.
So Saints Freo
Saints Freo
at Marvel.
Freo.
Yeah, right. Dogs Port Adelaide at Mars, which is in Ballarat.
I'm going doggies, mate.
Yeah, let's go doggies.
They're doing well.
Adelaide Carlton at Adelaide Oval.
Ooh. Look, it depends. For me, I'm just gonna go whoever's tipped less. I'm going for them.
Oh,
I
yeah?
think,
You're going baggers, mate.
is baggers? Are people tipping baggers less than Adelaide?
Yeah, Adelaide's $1.50 to $2.60.
Wow. I'd go. Look, I'm back in the baggers.
You
man.
want to go
Why not?
baggers?
Yeah.
They've never beat Adelaide at Adelaide Oval.
So that's gotta happen eventually,
Yeah.
right? It sounds,
All right,
someone's
let's
gotta
go
break
baggers,
the
man.
duck. Look, I'm not good at tipping. Don't take my tipping into account. Bro.
Baggers
I
to
suck
win,
at tipping.
but I was telling Matt to like Ben Keys, man.
Yeah.
Wait for his career game because this guy every year he comes up and he'll kick the first goal. He'll kick 3 goals in the first quarter. He'll have a Superman cape.
For the punters.
This guy is a god of playing Carlton.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So when you see it, and when he's got like 160 raking points, 5 goals, 35 possessions, does a backflip after he kicks like the winning goal in Siren, you know who to thank.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Oh, I guess we're going Carlton.
This is the juiciest, maybe one of the juiciest games of the round. Collingwood Geelong,
Oh, I'm going Collingwood.
MCG.
Bro. Collingwood, bro. At the MCG.
I'm gonna go Cats, just because I hate the Pies, and Cats can play.
There you go. See, now that it's only 2 of us, I don't know which one to put when I put it in. I might just go Col Geelong.
Yeah.
Like I can't do it. We didn't get Dino's tips beforehand, so we could get
fair
a
enough.
little breaker. But
That's a good game. Hopefully the weather holds up because I'm sick of these, wet weather games. Yuck.
here's a question: if it's wet weather, who wins?
They're both probably good, but I feel like Collingwood's had a bit of practice.
They have, yeah.
And Sidebottom to get another 15 clearances.
There we go. I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go Collingwood for that.
Oh,
one,
no,
but
this
yeah.
is the game of the round.
Oh, here we go.
West Coast Melbourne at Optus.
Look, that's where it gets interesting.
They have to win a game, bro.
They do. Do you gauntlet West Coast? Could you imagine? Can you imagine? I gauntleted Melbourne, and now I'm gonna go gauntlet against them. I can't because you got to get West Coast eventually. You got to pick them eventually in the gauntlet.
Do you reckon they'll beat North? I don't think they'll beat North.
West Coast?
Yeah.
No, we're better. I don't know. Depends where it is. If it's at Optus, you don't know. Look, I can't with Gawn going against Flynn
Oh, never
and
mind.
Petrarca coming up against
Forget I said
Clay
anything.
Hall. Like, what are we doing here, man? No,
Yeah.
it's got to be the days.
Sydney Giants, the clash in the
Sydney Giants. Oh, both
suck.
Both kind of suck right now. Both need a win. I think I'm leaning towards GWS, man.
Yeah.
Because
I will
if
as
the
well.
if the midfields are both kind of mid at the minute, at least GWS have a potent forward line and
Yeah.
they have a decent, rebounding defense. But then look, any reasoning I put into tips eventually just it turns on its head. So
that makes sense, man. They've got more spread around the ground.
Yeah,
Hawthorn Richmond,
Hawthorn. Yeah, of course.
Brisbane Gold Coast. That's a fun one. Dewy conditions up north.
Yeah.
Lions are
tough.
$1.54 to $2.49 at the moment.
So Lions up. You look. I don't know.
I kind of fancy your son's tip, man.
I know you do. But you know what? I don't know if this is going to reflect my actual tips, but for you, we're going to go Gold Coast.
Let's
baby.
do it, man.
We're going to Gold Coast together. That's the team that's going to come up. Is that the end of the round? All right.
Show me some shout outs, man.
All right. So shout out to my boy Kai M, work colleague, great bloke.
He's
still
leading.
incredible. He's leading. He's out on 48 total tips, and it's still Skivo, Lana S. She's on 48 as well, so they're together at the top there. And then we got Paul Curtis Taylor on 47, Hayden, Nathan Fish and Cripps 47. Those are so they're the next highest, and then Bilbo Baggers
Yes.
with
Our very own.
another work colleague of mine, Kiara T. So shout out Kiara T. Somehow she doesn't want this random Irish. She doesn't know footy. It's insane. This is shout out to Kiara for this one, man.
Yeah.
This is just a random person who doesn't follow footy being good at tips, which is Bilbo as well.
Yeah, well, the
Shout
thing
out
is,
to
we're so far behind these people. We've got no chance, man. I'm 8 behind the top.
Where am I? Where am I in comparison
How am I
to
meant
these
to get
two people?
8 tips back?
These two people who don't know about footy, but shout out to both of them, man. Where, bro? I don't even. I suck at tipping.
You got to
so bad,
scroll
bro.
down, bro.
That's the thing. I've been scrolling
If
down.
you have to say like and more, forget about it. Don't even look.
Oh, bro, I think I am on more.
Oh, I'm the same.
God. Oh, God.
Well,
Stoinky's even beating me, bro. Stoinky. Shout out Stoinky, man. I haven't shouted him out for a while.
Shout out Stunk.
Oh, bro. Rip tipping, bro.
Let's win some back this round. Tip some fancies. Tip the Blues.
But it never works, bro.
It never works.
Anyway, look. Shout out to you guys for listening.
Thanks for watching.
And see you guys in the next one, eh?
See you later. Bye.